The detective slid a photograph across the table and said, "We found this in your son's locker, but we don't think he put it there." The fluorescent light above me buzzed and flickered as I stared at the photograph on the metal table. My hands went cold, and I gripped the edge of my chair so hard my knuckles turned white. The image showed a girl from my son's school lying on the ground with bruises on her arms. My throat tightened, and I pushed the photo back toward the detective. His partner stood by the door with her arms crossed and her eyes locked on my face. I could hear my own breathing echoing off the concrete walls. My phone vibrated in my pocket, but I didn't dare reach for it. The detective tapped his pen against his notepad and waited for me to speak. My son Damon was only 15 years old. He had never been in trouble before. I opened my mouth, but no words came out, and my jaw just hung there uselessly. The detective slid another photograph across the table, and this one showed the inside of Damon's locker. I saw the crumpled photo wedged behind his textbooks, and my stomach lurched. His partner stepped forward and dropped a plastic evidence bag containing a handwritten note. The handwriting looked like Damon's, but something about the slant was wrong. I picked up the bag, and my fingers trembled as I read the words inside. The note said, "She deserved what happened to her." My chest seized, and I had to put both hands flat on the table to steady myself. The detective's radio crackled with static, and a voice mentioned my home address. I heard footsteps in the hallway outside, and saw two uniformed officers pass by the window. My wife called my phone again, and this time, the vibration seemed louder. The detective leaned forward, and his chair scraped against the floor. He told me officers were already at my house searching Damon's room. I kept shaking my head because Damon spent every afternoon at soccer practice. He came home exhausted every night and collapsed on the couch with his cleats still on. I had watched him help his younger sister with homework just last week. He volunteered at the animal shelter on weekends and always came back smelling like dog food. This had to be a mistake, and someone was clearly setting him up. I pulled out my phone and scrolled to his location tracker to prove he was innocent. The app showed his phone at home, but I had dropped him at school myself this morning. My hands started shaking harder, and I almost dropped the phone on the table. The detective reached over and took my phone from my grip. He pointed at the screen and showed me that Damon's phone had been stationary for 3 hours, but Damon always had his phone on him. The room felt smaller, and the walls seemed to lean inward. The detective's partner finally spoke, and her voice cut through the silence. She said the girl in the photo was named Olivia Brennan. My blood turned to ice, because Olivia was Damon's ex-girlfriend from last summer. I remembered the night they broke up, and how Damon had punched a hole in his bedroom wall. The detective asked me if I knew about any threats Damon had made. I shook my head, but my mouth went dry. His partner pulled out her phone and played a voicemail recording. Damon's voice filled the room saying he would make Olivia regret everything. My ears started ringing, and I grabbed the table again. The detective said quietly that the voicemail was sent yesterday. I wanted to vomit right there on the interrogation room floor. The door burst open, and another officer rushed in holding a tablet. He turned the screen toward the detective, and I saw surveillance footage from the school hallway. A figure in a dark hoodie walked toward Damon's locker and looked directly at the camera. The face was blurred, but the height was wrong for my son. I leaned forward and pointed at the screen with a shaking finger. The officer swiped to another video showing the same figure planting something inside the locker. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. The detective grabbed his radio and barked orders into it. His partner ran out of the room, and her footsteps echoed down the hallway. I stood up so fast, my chair crashed backward onto the floor. The officer zoomed in on the footage, and I saw a familiar bracelet on the figure's wrist. It was the same leather bracelet Damon's best friend Corey always wore. The detective told me to sit down, but I couldn't move. Corey had been at our house every day for years, eating dinner at our table. He had slept in Damon's room during sleepovers and borrowed our camping gear last month. The detective's phone rang, and he answered it while staring at me. His face changed, and he lowered the phone slowly. He said Corey had just confessed to attacking Olivia after she rejected him at a party. The photograph and note were planted to frame Damon because Corey knew they would search his locker first. I collapsed back into my chair and covered my face with both hands. The detective stood up and walked toward the door without another word. I sat alone in that cold room listening to the fluorescent light buzz above my head. My phone finally stopped vibrating, and the silence that followed was deafening. I dropped my hands and stared at the photograph still sitting on the table in front of me.